Thank you, Presiding Officer. Well, this has been a wide-ranging and actually quite constructive debate. We've had Willie Rennie bursting for the toilet, Rachel Hamilton trying to sell us a camper van, and Maggie Chapman, as usual, wired to the moon and on a different planet from the rest of us. But what we've heard throughout this debate, Presiding Officer, is that the tourism industry is one of the keystones of the Scottish economy. It generates billions of pounds of revenue and employs hundreds of thousands of people. Scotland has a great tourist product, attracting visitors from all across the world. And yet, as we've heard, the mood in the sector at present is dark. A whole range of challenges face an industry overwhelmingly made up of small and medium-sized businesses, as Liz Smith reminded us. And just as the sector is seeking to recover from COVID, it's been hit with a list of problems, many of which come back to the door of this Scottish Government. And against that backdrop, it's astonishing that Humza Yousaf, when he became First Minister, decided there would no longer be a minister in his government, given the title of Minister for Tourism. Yes, there's space for a dedicated Minister for Independence, but tourism doesn't get a mention. And what a signal that sends to the sector about its importance to this government. Now, let me address some of the challenges that have been raised during the debate. A number of members quite rightly raised workforce issues and the problems that the sector has in attracting staff. And it's true, many businesses struggle to get staff. They have to operate in shortened hours or even turn away trade because they cannot find the people to fill the vacancies. Now, people on the SNP benches seem to blame this entirely on Brexit. But the facts are much more complex than that, because every other Western economy is today facing workforce issues. When I visited Germany last summer with a range of colleagues from across the parties in this Parliament, the #1 concern from German businesses, apart from the cost of energy, was the lack of availability of labour. It's the same in France, it's the same in Italy, and the same in elsewhere. It cannot be Brexit causing these issues in other European countries. It must be something else. And we see, according to the latest figures, net immigration. Yes, I'll give way.
Cabinet Secretary.
One of the areas that, of course, we could improve upon, alongside the work that we're bringing forward on a talent attraction and migration service, would be if the UK Government would accept our proposal for a rural visa pilot. Will Mudro Fraser back that call today?
Well,
Mr Fraser.
You see, the problem with the approach being taken by the Minister is that net immigration into the UK today is double what it was prior to Brexit. It's at record levels. The question for the Cabinet Secretary is, why are these migrants coming into the UK not coming to Scotland? What is it about Scotland under this SNP government that is not attracting them? I don't have time, Mr McKee. So we do need to look at other ways of attracting people into the tourist sector. My colleague Maurice Golden hosted an excellent event in Parliament last week, highlighting the work of the charity Only a Pavement Away, which is about attracting those into the hospitality sector who are prison leavers, who are homeless, or who otherwise come from difficult backgrounds. It was an inspiring event with some real success stories. And I've seen for myself successes of apprenticeship schemes run by businesses such as Crieff Hydro, offering younger people secure and rewarding careers in the sector. There's much more to be done in this area, but it's right to highlight a key concern about the need to encourage more young people into a rewarding and long-term career. Now, we've heard about the issue of business rates paid by the sector. South of the border, they've been given a 75% relief for the current year, but despite having the Barnett consequentials from this, the Scottish Government has made different choices. And yet the rates burden is one of the major issues raised by the sector, and it's entirely within the gift of the Scottish Government to do something about this. And on the question of tax, I was frankly astonished that the Minister for Public Finance seemed to be arguing that the UK Government should increase borrowing to fund tax cuts. That's exactly what they criticised Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng did when they were in government. And now they're advocating it as a policy the government should follow, Presiding Officer. And then we have a number of members talked about the licensing scheme for short-term lends. And I was encouraged because there seemed to be a broad reflection across the chamber from all different parties that this was causing real issues. And Jackie Bailey gave us the figures for Argyll and Bute, which are really worrying. And I really would urge the government to look at this again, look at whether something might be done with a new intervention in this area. Otherwise, we're going to see businesses unable to operate because local authorities cannot process the applications fast enough to allow them to continue. And we see the same impact from connectivity issues. Just last week, I was talking to a hotelier in here, telling me about the difficulties hotels in the islands have in attracting bookings with the ongoing uncertainty over the ferry services. As Willie Rennie and others said, we saw a huge public protest in Loch Boysdale in South Uist last week, highlighting the fact that for the month of June they will see a massive disruption to the ferry service there. That is doing real damage to the tourist industry in the Highlands and Islands right now, and it's something that comes back under the watch of this Scottish Government. And we are still waiting for a programme for completing the dualling of the A9 and the A96. Again, long-awaited and long-delayed promises from this SNP Government. And just 2 weeks ago, we saw yet another fatality on the A9, on the Tomatin-Tomoy section, the section that was supposed to have work started on by now, and yet somebody lost his life. That needs to change, Presiding Officer. So, Presiding Officer, all these issues I've talked about are within the gift of this Scottish Government to resolve. People across the sector are crying out for Scottish Government support, but instead its major initiative is what? It's a new tourist tax, taking yet more money out of a sector already hard-pressed. As Edward Mountain said, if the Scottish Government doesn't change its approach, it's in danger of killing the goose that laid the golden egg. We all want to see a thriving tourism sector. We will only have that if the Government recognises that this industry, made up of mostly smaller operators, is encouraged and supported. So instead of focusing on independence, it is supporting tourism that should be this Government's priority, and I have pleasure in supporting the motion in the name of my colleague Liz Smith.